EduTrainer Workshops, the insurance industry's leading education and training platform, presents Life Insurance, the entry-level series, the products, the underwriting, and the planning applications to position your practice as the premier provider of insurance products in your community. Get on board, get on track, get to where you're going. And now, your EduTrainer National Insurance columnist, Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Steve Savant, your EduTrainer and coach. For our EduTrainer workshops, our introduction into annuities, and all this week, introduction into annuity income. All this week we've been talking about income generated from SPIAs, SPDAs. We're going to talk a little bit about the income riders that are built on top of indexed annuities, and it's pretty exciting. And if you're coming into our class today, it's your first time, I need you to go back and look to day one, our first course, to really build in chronology your learning experience. It's really important for you to start out the first time. And if you're catching us off the internet and you say, Steve, I pulled this off some guy's website, just hop out to our site, www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to our homepage, just click on the on-demand button that's in red there. It'll put you right into all our EduTrainer workshop videos, as well as our daily internet talk show, The Business Insurance Zone, and my weekend opinion piece called Welcome to the Weekend with Steve Savant. So what I want to do today is I want to map out 3 basic concepts in vocabulary before we get too far into this, so you understand this, and to kind of give a disclaimer. And these are coming right off the annuityspecs.com annuity software due diligence. It's just a fantastic piece of software. We use it all the time. A lot of the things we're going to show you today are right off annuityspecs.com, written, distributed by Cheryl Moore, the #1 authority in indexed annuities. Now I want to talk about 3 basic things: the benefit base, the benefit-based bonus, and the guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. And I'm just going to kind of read from this because I really want to be able to make sure I got the caveats correct in the explanation. Because we're really talking about 2 issues sometimes in what we're talking today. That is, we're talking about the shadow account and the actual account value. The shadow account being built by your hold position, but more than that, by the ability to, when you take income out, that's the number they're going to use. But it's not for surrender value. It's not account value. It is for your annuitization or your withdrawal benefit value. So just listen to these definitions so that you get this. And remember, all of her vocabulary for the entire indexed annuity, if you want to see that, it's available. Just write me theBIZ at brokersalliance.com, and I'll send you that, including the 2 charts we're going to go to the Mondo pad on in a moment. Now, listen to this phrase so that you really get the definitions down. The benefit base is the secondary shadow fund value of an annuity's optional guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit rider. That value from which the annuity guaranteed withdrawal payments, that's what it's based on. So again, if you surrender this is not applicable. If you say, where's my account value on this? This is not applicable. This is for when you're generating guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits. This is a separate value from the account value and is only available when you're taking withdrawals. Second of all, and that's actually the guaranteed withdrawal payments. Second of all, benefit-based bonus is a feature that credits a bonus direct to the benefit base of the optional guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. This bonus cannot be accessed in the event of cash value. It's solely for the shadow account value, which is based on the guaranteed withdrawal payments as calculated. It's very important to make sure that everybody understands this. And again, we'll send you the complete vocabulary because it's important. And the last thing, the actual GLWB rider to begin with. Guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit is a rider or an endorsement. It's an additional feature embedded or accompanying a fixed or an indexed annuity which guarantees annual withdrawals at a specific level, regardless of the contract's account value, even if it goes to 0, which I think is important. The lifetime income payments that the annuitant receives under optional guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits on a fixed annuity, those are put in place. And I think what I would call the hot consumer value of this is that they can't once they trigger this, they can't outlive it, and the bonus arrangements that are built inside these into the shadow accounts come online. It can be a huge bonus. Again, I want to go back to Monday's show and say, how long am I going to live, get a good expectation of my life expectancy, and then I'm going to go ahead and calculate this. So let's go ahead and look at the board. We're going to go on to annuityspecs.com and see the income that you can get immediately off an indexed. I'm looking at annuityspecs.com, put out by Cheryl Moore. This is an excellent digest. If you don't have this and you're playing in the annuity world, you need to have this software because I think it will really help you. And also, once you go through this, because this list is 113 different products over several carriers that are out there right now, I highly recommend that if you start to fall in love with about 2 to 3 different types of annuities, that you always get the sample contract, get to understand the language of what the contract says, and be able to walk through with a client. Certain times you're going to have clients that want to explain this to you, and especially on delivery. One of the protocols that we always push is to make sure that you go through the sample contract and disclose any fees, costs, and set the client expectation. One of our goals of setting the client expectation is so that they can have a good ownership experience. And part of that is delivering the policy in such a way that the client feels really comfortable that they've got a basic understanding. For them to have a basic understanding, you have to understand it yourself. That's why we recommend always order a sample contract of the 2 or 3 or 4 core carriers that you're going to use in any insurance product, so you always have it there to explain and give the expectation. Set the expectation right up front and understand and become familiar with the language of the annuity. Again, remember, Cheryl has a great annuity vocabulary sheet. If you want to order it, just call me and I'll be happy to take care of it for you. Actually, write me, theBIZ at brokersalliance.com, including this sheet if you want to see it. Now, I want to show you how all over the board, the first one I'm showing is immediate income. Now, a lot of people think, wow, do I have to wait 10 years? But actually, some of these will let you take immediate income off this. But if you're going to do that, I don't know why. I don't know why you'd want to spend the money doing that. So if you're not sure you're going to do this immediately and you're going to defer it, then you have another choice to make. You're going to have to ask the price tag. But I'm on here right now, so let's just look at some of the price tags for the GLWB, the Guaranteed Life Withdrawal Benefit. And when I look at that, they are all over the board. So you got to figure out, is the value, are they giving me the same thing? And is the cost prohibitive? The swing, if you just looked at the balance sheet right here, is from all the way down to 50 basis points to already 105 basis points. That's a deep swing in cost for that rider. So if I'm doing an income and I'm doing it somewhat immediate, a year or less, I'm not sure I want to do that. So I'm going to have to measure and see, is that a good deal? So when I look at this map, I'm going to look at all the carriers all in. It's going to give me, and especially if I'm thinking about roll-up issues, it's going to tell me the year, and most all of these are pretty long, 10 years and 20 years out. But I want to look at all of them, and remember, the GLWB could be also on the spouse. Now remember, you're going to have to check from contract to contract. I want to look at income. Is it better to put it on my life, or should I use my wife and my life on the same contract when we generate the money for the income? There's so much going on in this market. I just want you to look at this and look at just some of what's going on today, because it is really quite a lot. So let's look at this. In other words, I'm looking at 95 basis points, 40 basis points, 75 basis points. All these are different, and for when you're generating immediate income off these contracts, you want to make sure the mechanics are set up right. And again, if you want to order this page, I'll give it to you. Just write me at theBIZ at brokersalliance.com. Now what I want to do is I want to go to the standard boilerplate where we don't mind paying this money for the GLWB rider, and incorporate also our bonus rates into it and see what kind of numbers we can get on annuitization. Now, the first chart I showed you from annuityspecs.com was immediate income and those price tags for it. Again, I'm not really sure that's a good economic issue. You're going to have to measure that out and see if that's good. However, now I'm on the one where you're going to hold. You're actually going to say, let's say you're holding for 10 years and you want to look at these costs. What I like about what they've done here at annuityspecs.com is they've mapped out the company, the product, whether the GLW rider is on there, it'll tell you yes or no, and the name of that rider so that you get familiar with it. Again, you want to get very familiar with the language you're using depending upon what policy you're going to use. And then the last one is, does it have a bonus? Does it have a charge? And we were talking about expense charges. And remember, a lot of these clients are going to be looking at their total rate of return, and they're sometimes not incorporating the cost of this. And in a non-crediting year, this could be an issue, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. So I'm looking also, does it have a GLWB roll-up? And does the roll-up, how long is the roll-up duration? And is there any annual step-up? And a lot of these, remember, they're all over the board. You want to look at every single possibility when you're looking at these, and can they put on the GLWB spousal rider? What I've done here is I've mapped out only the riders here. And again, if you want to order that, you can order it at theBIZ at brokersalliance.com. Now I want to go to the Mondo board and look at the whiteboard and talk a little bit about some of the mechanics of this. Okay, on our Mondo board, I want to look at a couple things here. My account value, and I want to look at my actual distribution value, or my phantom account. And the distribution value is only as good, it's only for income when you're generating income. Remember that whatever the cost is, let's say your rider costs you 1% or 100 basis points. If I'm looking at this, I want to be able to measure, is it worth the number? Because remember, some annuities index annuities will actually incorporate an actual distribution value, and you may not have to pay for it, but it's kind of low. So you have to decide, what's the trade-off? If I get a huge bonus number, and that bonus number makes my distribution value huge, for example, I could have a $100,000 original number that I put in my account value when I start out, but they might give me a bonus rate, and I might have now $110,000, and that becomes my distribution value only at distribution, and they may require me to hold the contract for a certain duration. But if I'm doing 1 point, is it 1% off this number, or is it 1% off the value? And to me, that's an issue, because we're going to have periods where there's non-crediting in those years. As an example of this, keep in mind that in years 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2008. Now, the reason I bring this up is because if you snapshot the last 10 years, which goes all the way out to 2011 from last year, if you snapshot this, that's 4 years of non-creditation. So if I have a $100,000 contract that I put my value in, but I was given a bonus arrangement and I have actually 110 in my distribution value, they may be pulling off the 1% value off that higher number, even though 10,000 of that is phantom until I get to my retirement or my distribution. If I have 4 non-crediting years, I'm still paying that number. That's why I think it's really important to look at this, especially because people who bought front-end indexed annuities at the front end of 2001, they had 4 non-crediting years. Now, again, there's guarantees, of course. There's not principal loss, but I still have bills to pay, and if I'm using a rider where it costs me, it's a heads-up issue, and especially I've seen some bonus arrangements where they're a lot higher than 10%, and that number, if they're pulling their 1% charge, 75 basis points, whatever that charge is, if they're pulling it off the phantom number, not the actual account number, that's an issue. And over the year, as it's going up, if the phantom is going up, so is the expense charge against that number. So the expense stays static, but the value in the phantom account's going up. So just keep in mind that when we've just experienced this perfect storm of where you could get hurt in distribution, that's why I always want to bring it up and remind you that if you're doing this, look at 2001, 2, 3, and 2008. Look at those numbers. What would have happened if you would have been in this annuity, and what's the price tag you would have had to pay for it, and then base that, of course, off what are the other years when you had positive numbers. So in your other case, you would have had 2004, 5, 6, 7, and 9 and 10, they would have been positive. You had it 6 years positive. You just want to make sure that the expense loads that we're talking about, the client knows exactly where it's coming from. A majority of these contracts, it's coming from the phantom income or the distribution income number. So it's important. I have to look at what's the all-in price. The bigger the indexed annuity, the more important this becomes. This can be huge numbers, and the last thing I want to do is add an expense to a contract like an annuity that already has internal expenses as it is. So I want to be able to go back into this and look at this. The bigger the number, the more likely I'm going to look at contracts that do not charge for riders, or they're so low because the math has to work. When you see this entire chart, again, you can order it at theBIZ at brokersalliance.com. It'll help you figure that out and find out, does that include these roll-up numbers and at distribution, so that you can be confident that the expense loads that you're charging in the indexing will work. Remember, you want to do lifetime income, and if it beats an SPIA, you want to use this, but you got to make sure that the math works and the expense loads are all accounted for.
This has been an EduTrainment Workshop, the educational division of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance.